Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. We'll give everyone a minute to join before we begin. Okay, we'll go ahead and get things started here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for building and tracking budgets in Fieldwire. My name is Roma Jani, and I'm a solutions engineer here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I'd like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure a smooth session, attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. We will have the Q&A session at the end of this presentation, and we will do our best to address as many questions as we can. For any questions that we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly. We also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. Please feel free to select your answer when the questions pop up. Additionally, we have a short 5-question survey at the end of the webinar, which we would appreciate if you could fill out. This survey helps us determine the usefulness of the content we deliver and helps us plan for future webinars. Our first, like I said, before we dive into the webinar, please take a moment to fill out the poll questions so we can learn a bit more about you. The first question is, what type of company do you work for? And the second is, what is your role? Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Milka Ariste, a construction solutions manager, and Joe Fitzpatrick, our senior product manager. Just waiting for the poll. Perfect. And now I'd like to welcome Milka and Joe.
Thank you, Roma. So Joe and I will be presenting this webinar today, and we'll start with introductions of ourselves. So my name is Milka. I'm a construction success manager here at Fieldwire, and I have a background in mechanical engineering. Prior to that, I worked in the construction industry for several general contractors in New York City, primarily in the healthcare sector. And now at Fieldwire, I help general contractors and subcontractors implement Fieldwire on their projects, help them with determining and establishing specific workflows that will meet their needs. And I'm really their go-to person for Fieldwire.
Awesome. And I'm Joe Fitzpatrick, Senior Product Manager here at Fieldwire. Been here a little over 3.5 years. My main focus right now is building out our financial tools, so our budget and change order tool we'll be checking out today. Previously worked on some of our other tools like our submittals tool. And then prior to this was at a smaller construction tech startup, kind of building similar project management tools. And then before that was worked for a general contractor for a little over 3 years in San Francisco, building office space. So I have some construction background as well, but super excited to talk with you guys today and show you how our new budget and change orders tool works.
So this is our agenda for today. This is our outline. First, we will begin with a Fieldwire overview. We'll see what Fieldwire does and its capabilities. And then we'll jump right into our live demo where we will see how budget and change orders interact in Fieldwire and how you can use them to manage the finances on your project. And we will close out with a Q&A session. So this is a high-level overview of Fieldwire. At its core, Fieldwire was designed to connect the field and office. So we have three main pillars, which you see reflected here on the screen. First is access and sharing information. So we have plans, markups, RFIs, and submittals. So this ensures that everyone has the most up-to-date information. Then we have planning and managing work, which we do with our task management tools, messaging, and punch list. So this allows different teams to assign, track, and prioritize work in real time. And then we also have tracking and progress reporting with our forms, with our file management and change orders, which gives everyone full visibility into what's happening on site. So on our screen, we can see the different tools that are available within Fieldwire for managing your projects from beginning to end. But today we will be focusing on the two tools at the bottom, which are change orders and budgets. So without further ado, we will now jump into our live demo for today. So I am now in the project dashboard. This is where I can see all of the projects that are in Fieldwire for my account. I'm going to start a project from scratch and set up the budget in here from scratch. So right now I am in the budget module. I am starting this from scratch, and we will see how Fieldwire is very user friendly and will lead me through the process. So I have all of these steps outlined here for me. And the first step in setting up a budget is setting the lead company. So if I set the lead company, this is very important for two things. Setting the lead company ensures that there is a central entity that everything must go through before it goes out for approval. So in the case of a subcontractor, everything must go through you before you send it out to, let's say, the GC. And if you're a GC, everything must go through you from your subs before it goes out to the owner. So setting a lead company sets that central entity. And we can see here that Fieldwire is prompting me to set the general contractor in this specific case as the lead company. So I've set the lead company. Let's go to manage companies. Here in the People's tab, I can see all of the companies that are specifically on this project. And I can confirm that I've set the right lead company here because I have this tag lead company next to Fieldwire general contractor. And the second reason why setting the lead company is important is because only members within the lead company that have admin access will be able to access the budget module. So only users in the lead company that are administrators, admin, will be able to even see the budget module. And Fieldwire knows that your budget is very sensitive, right? You don't want your subs to see it, you don't want your vendors to see it. And sometimes you don't even want people within your own team to see it. So Fieldwire gives you full control with the permissions on who can see what on your project, especially the budget. So let's go back to the budget module now. The second step will be setting up our cost codes and setting up your cost codes. That's very essential for tracking expenses on your project throughout its lifetime. So if I go to manage cost codes, I can add these cost codes in two different ways. So the first way is manually. I would type in each cost code manually here, where I would click on add new cost code group. The other option is to import the cost codes. So with that, a lot of companies, for example, have standard cost codes. You can leverage that tool here to import your cost codes and set it up really easily. So I have an example here of a cost code that I'm going to upload live here. So this is our template for the cost codes that you can fill in and then in return, upload it into Fieldwire. So I'm going to import our cost code. So we can see here on the screen, all of the cost codes that I've imported are reflected in Fieldwire. I have about 27 cost codes that I've uploaded. So the next step would be creating our budget. And similarly to the cost codes, you can um, create your budget manually, like one by one within Fieldwire, or you can also leverage our import budget feature, which is what I'm going to do. And I want to show our budget importer. So this is our template, which I am going to upload shortly. And this has our original budget, each cost type, and the code tier. So let's go ahead and import our budget. So we can see here within a few clicks, my cost codes are imported as well as all of my original values for this budget. So now once my budget is fully set and everything looks good, I can go ahead and lock this budget to restrict any more modifications from being made. And I want to reemphasize again that only members that are admin and the lead company can see the budget. So they're the only people who would be able to lock the budget or unlock it to make any modifications. So you have full control within Fieldwire on the budget with our permissions. So now that our budget is fully set up, one more thing we can do is assign some of these cost codes to different subcontractors or vendors on our project. You'll notice here that every line that says sub has the letter assigned to. So from here, we can assign these cost codes to different vendors or subcontractors. And what it does is it consolidates each of these cost codes so that as different costs or change orders arise on your projects, it makes it easier to track against a subcontractor's line item. So for example, in our case, I will add, so you can see here, I've assigned this cost code to the carpenter. I'll also do the concrete one. Okay, and this is how you would go about assigning different line items to your vendors or subcontractors. And with that, we saw how we can set up a budget from scratch, and it's really easy. We'll pass now with a poll question, and then I'll pass it over to Joe, where we will see 2 months into the same project, how exactly our budget has progressed and what it looks like. So our poll question is, how are you currently tracking budgets? Our options are Excel, Procore/Autodesk, ERP systems like QuickBooks, Sage, Viewpoint, and others.
Awesome, thanks Milka. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and can you guys, Milka, can you see my budget screen now? Cool. Right on. So we're going to check out 2 months into the future, same project we were just looking at. Now we've had some actual construction being done in the field. We've had some change orders result, and we've had some costs that have actually been accrued on this project. So first, we're going to break it down and kind of understand the format of our table here. So previously, we imported our budget here, and a couple of things I want to call out. So on the left side of our screen, in this cost code section, this is essentially all of the scopes of work on the project. You can break them down as granular or high level as you want. We have a two-tier system, so you can have a group where you can put all your tier two cost codes within it. So that's kind of how we have it broken down here. And then within that, you can see we have these initials. And when I highlight over them, you can see what they mean. So these are our cost types. So just a quick summary of what our cost types are. We have material, labor, equipment, subcontractor, other, and cost markup. These are standard throughout Fieldwire, not editable, but you can utilize these within your budget tool and your change orders. So just wanted to kind of quickly highlight how it looks in change orders too, since they talk to each other. So within our change orders, we'll see it's split into the same cost type sections. We have materials, labor, equipment, subcontractor, other, and cost markup. So whenever we're in change orders and we're assigning cost codes to the corresponding row, that will actually talk to the budget, make sure it lands in the correct row. So that's how the numbers kind of land where they do when you're interacting with change orders. The cost type really just allows us to specify further what that scope of work is. You might have one scope of work that has both a labor and a material component, so you can utilize the cost types to kind of differentiate between the two. Cool, so that's the kind of cost code section, all of our scopes of work. You can see how we split it up here. We got a bunch of subcontractors on here, but if you were a subcontractor yourself, it would really just be your own company unless you wanted to bring on any vendors here in that scenario. So next we're going to jump over to a couple of the other sections. So right here, we see our budget section, then we see our cost section and our forecast section. So you can think of the budget side, this is all the money we're bringing in. Cost side, all the money we're sending out. And then the forecast side is essentially just the difference between the two, that delta that kind of highlights if we're making or losing money on that row. So touching on the budget side, original column, this is what we just imported in the previous scenario with Milka. And you can think of this as this is our starting budget. This is what we're beginning with. This is what, this value down here will be reflected in our contract with our client. And this is really our starting value. Our next one is going to be our current budget. So this is the original plus any approved change orders associated with my company. And then pending, any pending change orders associated with my company. So here we can see we got a bunch of pending change orders. Let's actually open one up and kind of check out what that looks like. So we can see here for this row that we clicked on, our equipment rentals, we have an approved change order as well as a pending change order that we're seeing that 11,481 there. If we wanted to jump in there, we could look at that change order in more detail. We'll do that in another step, but just wanted to highlight that's kind of the pending. You want to have your eyes focus on there to make sure you get those pending costs approved. Our cost side now, like I mentioned, this is all the money we're sending out. So original column works in a couple ways. If you have a subcontractor type associated with this row, whether it's a third party sub or a vendor, you can put whatever their original contract value is there. Or if it's a different value, like this equipment rentals here, we might put in what we're actually expecting to spend for that row. So we can use it in a couple of ways, and we can always unlock it, make those changes if we need to, and lock it again. So the unlock and relock feature just gives you some friction there to not fat finger any mistakes. So jumping into the current, you'll notice the names are pretty similar from the budget side. As you could guess, this is now the original plus any approved subcontractor change orders associated with that line item. So you'll see here we got some change orders that added to our scope for this row for our concrete sub. And then pending is any pending subcontractor change orders. So if we just do a quick look through, we can see, okay, we got a pending one for our mechanical sub, and a couple for our electrical subs that we want to take action on. Let's actually just look at that there. And we can see, okay, we got two pending subcontractor change orders that we might want to check out and take action on. And then lastly, in the cost column or the cost section is our actual cost. So you can use this in a couple of different ways. Essentially, it's any costs that have been paid for your project. So money actually leaving your account is kind of the idea behind it. That's the primary use case. There's a couple other ways you could use it if you wanted to track maybe like work that's been installed. Could potentially use it that way as well. But for this example, let's check out our equipment rentals again. And we can see we have this one. It's going to be an invoice. We can check out the attachment for it. Maybe we actually paid for this already. So we wanted to reflect that cost that has actually been subtracted for our account. We can also use it for our subcontractors if we wanted to show what they've invoiced so far. So we can see there's been a couple that we've added. Let's actually just add another just to show you what that workflow looks like. So maybe they're pretty much done with their installation of rebar at this point, and we'll say final rebar invoice. And maybe we'll say this one's like 17,000. And if we want to add any attachments, we can upload from our files or upload from our desktop for that new one. So we can do that there. We can always modify this too if we need to, and edit it if needed. Um, and then lastly, we'll jump to the forecast side. So our current over under, if you highlight over the header here, it's just our current budget. So this row column minus our current costs and the delta between the two. And then our actual over under is our current budget minus our actual costs. So that can kind of give you an idea of how much is remaining versus what you've spent to date. Cool, and I think that is the main items I wanted to cover, highlighting the structure of your budget, kind of our nomenclature that we got here, the different sections of our budget side, the cost coming in, cost side, money going out, forecast side, delta between the two. Showed you the side panel, how that works on our budget side and our cost side, checking out the actual costs. And with that, we will do another poll question before I hand it back to Milka. Cool. In this poll question, we got, what are the major pain points in your current budget process today? Check all that apply. Awesome.
Okay,
Over to you, Milka.
thanks, Joe. So now we are in our change order module. This is where we could see all of the change orders that are on our project, as well as a summary board of all of the different statuses and the amount we have in each. So let's go ahead and create a change order to see what that would look like. We have this draft change order that we're going to issue to the owner for approval. This is a change order for a air handling unit that was added in a new bulletin to serve a room that was transformed into a server room. So due to this, we have new ventilation requirements, and this air handling unit is being added to meet those requirements. So here's a breakdown of our change order. This is the interface you'll see every time you're creating a change order. So we have different sections, and you have the flexibility to break it down any way that fits your needs. But for us, in our case, we have under equipment, we've added a cost for crane just to set that equipment when it arrives on site. So we have a unit cost of $5,000 for that. And if we scroll down to subcontractor section, you notice that we've selected cost code 23.210. This is our air handler cost code, and I've added the model name as well as the quantity and the unit cost. So our unit cost for this is $10,000. And if we scroll down below, we have our final markups that I've added for this change order. And what's really cool is I can simply type the percentage and the cost will be automatically calculated for me by Fieldwire, and I've added my backup document. So going over to the left, this is where I can add more pertinent information to this change order. So first we have the reason. I've selected the reason. This is a design change. And if there's a reference number associated with this, I would add it here. As for schedule impact, I put maybe because we're still confirming the lead time for this. So there may be a schedule impact. And then I've added a description. And you'll note below here, you can link different change orders. What I've done is I've added the change order that I received from the sub to this change order that I'm sending upwards to the client. So with Fieldwire, you can link different change orders, and that just makes it easier for you to track down the line. So now that my change order looks all good and ready to go, I can submit it for approval. So if you go to send, I can click on submit for approval and submit it from there. So there are two options to submit a change order for approval in Fieldwire. So your first option will be within Fieldwire itself. So for example, if the GC is in Fieldwire or the owner is in Fieldwire, you can simply select them and they're a project user. You would select them from the dropdown and send it to them that way. The second option is by email address, which is what we will be doing in our case because for us, the owner is not a project user in Fieldwire. So what I can do is simply add the owner's email address. And if I wanted to, I can add any other reviewers to this in the CC section. And let's add a due date for this change order. And for message, let's say please expedite since this is possibly a long lead item that could affect the schedule and we don't want that. So now that my change order, I've filled out all the information, I can submit it for approval. So my change order is now submitted, and you'll notice that my status has changed from draft to pending approval. So, and you'll notice also that there's this external tag next to assignee, which lets me know that this person is not in Fieldwire. So that is basically how you would go about creating a change order in Fieldwire. So now that we've submitted this change order and it's pending approval, we'll go back to the budget section module to see what happened. So in our budget module, if we scroll down to 23 to 10 for our air handlers, we'll notice the value of $10,000 has been automatically populated in the pending column. So the Fieldwire, the change orders and budgets basically synchronize and they communicate with each other. So any changes that are made in change orders will be automatically reflected here in your budget. And if I were to click on this line item, for example, like Joe showed previously, under budget, I can see all of the change orders that are currently billing or tracking against this specific code. And if I go under cost, I can see actual costs like invoices as well. And from here, I can go into that exact change order. So this is the change order that we just created. And if I click into it, you'll notice here that Fieldwire brings me back to that exact change order to see more details about the change order. So now let's say it is 2 weeks later and we got the approval to proceed with this change. Since my owner is not in Fieldwire, I can respond on their behalf. So if I click on respond on behalf, I can approve this change order. And here I can add any notes that the owner may have had. I can add an attachment just as backup, and then from there respond. So our change order is now approved. We're approved to proceed with this work. And you'll notice that the status has automatically changed to approved. So let's again go back to our budget to see what happened. So we're back in the budget and I'm going to our same line item, mechanical air handlers, which is 210, to see what happened. So we can notice here in the pending column, our sum is 00. That 10,000 value is no longer there. And if I go to the current column, I can see that this value has increased. So our current column, like Joe explained before, will be basically your original contract value plus any change orders that are approved. So that is basically how you would go about creating a change order and seeing it in your budget. And the last thing that I do want to mention is that you can also generate reports for your change orders and also for the budget. So if I go here to generate report, I can generate a CSV report or an Excel report of this budget. And this can be really important for just internal cost reporting or just high level decision making. You may want to export it. So you have the ability to do that right here. And I have an example of a CSV budget that I've exported. So this is our budget. And you can see here that everything that is in the budget in Fieldwire is reflected here in the CSV file. So that is an overview of how Fieldwire can basically streamline budget and change order management on your projects. So we'll open up the floor now to any questions that we may have.
Yes. Thank you, Milka and Joe, for going over these workflows in Fieldwire. Um, as we dive into the Q&A session, looks like we already do have two questions. So the first one is, when assigning vendors to the budget, is there a place where we can attach a detailed breakdown of the purchase order slash contract? Backup documentation is important to track.
Yeah, great question. So today you could utilize the files tab. That probably would be the best place for it, having a folder for that vendor and adding your files to it. We are building a new feature called the activity and notes tab that will live in the side panel we looked at. In there, that would be like the perfect place to put any backup information for that vendor in the future. But yeah, today files tab, best bet, and then down the road this summer, that will be the place to be.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question is, how does the external email appear to the end user? So I believe they're talking about the change order external.
Yeah, for sure. Look, would you want to show um, that?
Yes, so on my screen here, you can see a change order that I've assigned to someone that is outside of Fieldwire. So this is the email that they will get. This is what they will see. They'll see all of the information, such as the description. And if there are any attachments, they will also see it here. This is not a good example. So let's try to find an example that has. So I don't have an example that has an actual attachment, but all of that will be shown in the email that the person receives. They can click into the attachment. They can see all of the files, the backup documents that have been attached to this change order that is assigned to them. But this is just a general idea of the interface that the person on the receiving end will receive.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And can you stay sharing for a second? Our next question is, can you send a copy of the templates for cost codes and the budget filled out? So if you don't mind just showing like zooming into the budget template, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, the import template.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe if you could zoom. Actually, I don't know how to zoom. Nice. Yeah,
I'm
so just
zooming
talking
in.
through, this is the budget template, import template. How this works, basically, if you remember when Milk was setting it up, the previous step, we set our cost codes. Um, the cost codes have four columns, a tier one code and name, and a tier two code and name. The code can be like a number, alphanumerical symbols, and so what this is now is the budget template that you have to assign the correct code, tier one code from your cost codes into your two code, in order to get it go to the right location on your budget. And then the cost types, those are preset with the six cost types we looked at in the app to make sure it matches up. And then there's a bunch of like handling in place. So if you do kind of do a double entry, it will catch that, and it will let you know, hey, look at line 11 in your template. It looks like you added this cost code in twice. So there's some error handling that can help prevent any like double entry or like missed entries as well. And do we want to check out the cost code one too? I can
Yes,
just talk through
please.
that too. Cool. So yeah, this is the cost code one. So like I mentioned, four columns with your cost codes, your tier one code and name, and then tier two code and name. So this is what's going to be used in your budget that we looked at, as well as your change orders. And yeah, it can be alphanumerical codes with symbols, so it can kind of customize that how you'd like.
Thank you. Um, the next question is, when assigning subtrades in our change order, should they have a Fieldwire account as well?
Yeah, great question. So up to you. You can maybe I can actually share my screen. Uh, let's see.
We'll just make you the presenter real quick.
Oh, nice, awesome. Yeah, so kind of flexible how you want to do it. But checking out our change orders tool, if you'll remember, let's just say we have like a request for costs from concrete sub. So I'll just do like a quick example there. So this is like the draft we looked at before. You have two options. We can request costs, submit for approval. We want costs from our subcontractors, so we're going to request costs. So pretty similar to that submit flow Milko is showing, we also have the option, when requesting costs, to do a project user or just from an email address. One thing we do need to select is the company, if we're doing an email address. So let's just go through that scenario of maybe, this person's not actually on Fieldwire. We need their company. A company can just be a shell with nobody in it. But let's do that. Um, and then if you had them like previously in here, it would pop up. But yeah, they'll get this, and maybe we'll throw a due date on there. If we don't, whatever reason, didn't want them to get the email, maybe like they knew about it previously, you can do that. But yeah, could be, project user or external user. The workflow is a bit more seamless if it's a project user. Uh, if it's an external user, they got to go through the email process instead of logging in. So that's kind of the main difference between the two, I'd say.
Thank you. For the cost codes, what file format does the upload need to be in?
Yeah, so we provide a template for you. So let's maybe check that out. And we can always manage our cost codes if we want to like edit these at any time. If they've been used already, you just can't delete them. So we supply a Excel file for you to use. So you'll need to use that Excel file template. So I would just recommend if you have data that's in another CSV or um, somewhere else, just copy and paste it into our template. That way, it'll just be a bit smoother of a process. If you use like your own Excel template, it could work, but it just might be a little bit more error prone since Excel's got a bunch of little quirks with it that with like formatting and everything. So recommend just using ours, copy and pasting your data into ours, and then it should be pretty seamless.
All right. Next question. Should we create a separate CO for our company and our sub trades if both parties are involved in one CO?
Yeah, a great question. So I think that was like a perfect example that Milka was showing. And I think, do you remember what number that was, Milka? Oh, you approved it, right? It was, I think, this one. Um, so I would recommend two separate ones. What Milka did, she mentioned we had this linked change order for our subcontractor. So our sub actually submitted us their costs for this uh, change order itself. So recommend you do two separate ones, but you link them. Um, and if you look here, we can see we just populated the costs from that would be the idea. So two separate ones, so you each have your own, and then you can always like download it, and that will have like a summary of uh, just their company with their like. I'll try to share my other tab. Maybe could you invite me to share one more time? Oh, nice, got it. So when you download it, this is our subs um, change order. Will actually show their original contract value, if there's been any approved changes, their current contractor value, the cost for this change order, and new contract value. So this is specific to this subcontractor. And then similarly for my company, we would have a separate change order that's going to be submitted to the owner. All of this info would be associated with my company, and then same with the contract value information. So yeah, two separate ones, but linking them is probably the best bet.
Sounds good. I think we have time for one more question. Can you change the currency to Canadian dollars? The change order template is currently on US by
Yeah,
default.
for sure. Yeah, so we support a lot of different currency types. And just in the settings of our project, we can select the currency. So Canadian dollars, I think, is CAD. So what this does is in our change orders now, we can see our cost value is associated with Canadian dollars. Maybe we'll just pop one open and we can kind of see. So anywhere where we like note the currency, we just use the currency like shorthand instead of a symbol. Yeah, in budget and the change orders, we can customize to whatever currency is applicable to you.
Thank you. We are at time, so all the questions that aren't answered will be answered via email. I just want to thank everyone for joining today. I hope this session was useful. We would really appreciate it if you can stay over for a couple minutes just to answer our quick survey. But thank you and have a great day. And thank you, Joe and Milka.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for checking it out. And yeah, happy to answer any questions offline.
Thanks, everyone.